Hey, it's Amy. Today we have a slightly different setup. I just got out of the work holiday party that we hosted this year and we went virtual. So instead of, meeting up in a giant room together and eating and playing games in person and all that, we decided to do breakout rooms and do everything virtually. And it actually was a lot of fun. Like we got to catch up with each other. They did some demo kitchens and I have been inspired to go and make these muffins that I have been wanting to make for about a month now. Some of my friends back home and I do a recipe exchange where we're supposed to mail each other themed recipes like every month. And I have yet to make the one that I sent off this month, which is the gingerbread muffins with sweet lemon glaze from Sally's Baking Addiction. And in addition, one of my colleagues and I, she's a friend who I work with, we want to do some type of demo kitchen project that we're partnering with several other campus offices on, like for the students at our university. And I've been saying, like we can just like cook something or bake something and just film ourselves doing it. And my friend who's working on this with me is like, she was the one that was doing one of the demos. She did a cocktail demo in today's holiday party, and she said it is really not as easy as you think. Like you have to worry about the kitchen space and whether you have like the right camera set up. And I'm like, I think what I have can work, but now I'm about to eat my words because first off, I am no cook or baker. Like I think I mentioned multiple times before, I only started cooking because of this pandemic. So, my kitchen setup is very, very basic, but I am going to try to do this. Like I just have my camera set up here and I'm kind of limited. Normally I work here anyways, but it's kind of hard to like talk into the camera and, do my thing. And I'm not, like I said, I'm an amateur, so everything I do takes forever. So we'll see how this goes. And I figured I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. While I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and do a book tag. So today's tag that I'm doing is the Christmas Carol tag that Rosie Cockshut tags me in. So it's a pretty short tag, so I figured it'll be good for me because I can't really multitask, so it'll take me forever to answer the questions and to get these muffins ready. So let's start. Alright, so already I've run into a complication. I need to preheat my oven to 425 degrees. Like I said, I'm usually very slow. I'm wondering if maybe I should mix everything and then preheat the oven. But then what if I finish everything and then the oven's not preheated and it takes forever? You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and preheat the oven and work as fast as I can. Okay, so please ignore the mess that's now on top of the oven. I put my pans and everything inside the oven because I originally had them up in the cabinets and everything, but they're very tall cabinets and I don't like climbing up to grab them every few weeks. So I decided when I'm not using the oven, why not just leave the pans inside there? So that's what all this crap on top of the stove is. But so while that's preheating, I'm going to go ahead and get the other things ready for the batter. So it says to cut the butter into small pieces so it melts easier. I already have my butter softened right here, so I don't know why I have to cut it into small pieces again, but let's see. I'm not going to not follow instructions because I don't know what I'm doing, like I said. So while I'm trying to cut up this butter, if I can get it open first, let's do the first tag. So the first question or prompt is The Ghost of Christmas Past, a book that was a childhood favorite. Now that is very hard to pick because I don't remember what I read when. I have a lot of books I read when I was a kid. There's the usual suspects like Harry Potter and all that. And I've mentioned Auntie Drew multiple times, but I think one of the earlier books I remember reading is probably the Anne of Green Gables series by Lucy Maud Montgomery. So recently Netflix did an adaptation called Anne with an E. So many of you might be familiar with it, but if you're not, it's a story set on Prince Edward Island in Canada. It's like off the coast of Canada, and they actually no, like that would for a second there I was very blurry, don't know what happened, but I read that series when I was very, very young because my favorite uncle owned the entire thing. He had like these paperbacks that he bought when he was like a young man. And like he told me they were some of the first books he read when he came to the United States. So he basically passed it on to me. So I have all of those books, but I left them back in California because I couldn't reach them. And basically by the time I moved out of my parents' house, they were behind like such a giant mess that I couldn't I get to them, and I went, you know what, I'm just gonna leave them there on this bookshelf, and like that way they'll just be there for me when I come back. But yeah, for anyone who's not familiar with Anne of Green Gables, it's the story of this orphan girl who gets adopted by this brother and sister, and they're both they're both older, so I can't really tell how old they are, but I watched the old Canadian television adaptation with Megan Follows, and they were definitely like, they look like maybe they're in like their 50s or 60s, and like the sister Marilla is super strict, and Anne is just a very imaginative child who has always been like felt kind of unwanted and like she didn't belong. I remember as a kid I really identified with her, not that I felt like nobody wanted me, because I've always been fortunate in that I have a supportive family and I have friends, but she was a bit eccentric, and the way that she thought and like the books that she liked to read and everything, like basically she didn't fit in with like the drab like more realistic lifestyle of an orphanage or a typical orphanage back in the day. So like it was really good that this brother and sister adopted her, because like she manages to find a home with them. She makes friends who are the girls and boys who live in this small town of Prince Edward Island, and they just have like these adventures together, and it's really wholesome. And I like they made a TV series on PBS, like a little cartoon that like they have like, I think it's Further Adventures or something of Anne of Green Gables. But yeah, it was just a very particularly memorable series. It was a big part of childhood to me, so I think one day I might like to revisit it. I think that's a series that might have aged well, like compared to all the others. Okay, so next they want me to combine the molasses and the butter that I cut up in a large bowl. I took out my two Pyrex bowls, which both, this one I would consider medium, this one large, but they want me to do that whole thing where you pour like wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, and I'm really not sure if this medium bowl is large enough, but I need the large bowl for the dry ingredients, so I'm just going to hope that this is enough. Anyways, let's just dump the chopped butter in. And then for molasses, I need a 3/4 cup. I mean, a cup measure, I guess. I don't know about you guys, but for some reason, every time I try to make anything using molasses, the resulting, like, cookie or cake or whatever, it's always, like, falling apart on me. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if molasses just don't really bond together really well. I need a spoon to scoop the molasses. Fuck, I hope I have 3/4 of a cup here. If not, then we'll just have to make do. But let's grab a spoon. Alright, so I'm going to use this 1 cup measure and just estimate until I get 3/4 of a cup. Anyways, while I do that, and the next question is The Ghost of Christmas Present, a recent book that you think will become one of your all-time favorites. So I am currently reading a book called Kings of the Wild. I am not done yet. It's taken me about 3 months and I'm still not done. And it's not because the book sucks. It's actually the complete opposite reason. I love it so much that I don't want it to end. It's a fantasy novel about this band of former mercenaries, and they are at the moment a bunch of washed up old fogies. Well, not that old. They're probably like, maybe like in terms of like a fantasy world, they might be considered pretty old. They're in like their 40s, like maybe late 40s. and like they have like grown children and everything. But years and years ago, they were really well known for like their like the deeds that they accomplished, like back when they were young men, like roaming the wilds as like a mercenary band. Like, you know, like they killed like great beasts, and like they fought like people that were, I guess, really hard to kill. And like one of the guys is known for like how strong he is, and like their weapons are recognizable and everything. They're basically celebrities. And the leader of the group like was a pretty boy, and like everyone, like they call him like Golden Gabe because he had very nice blonde hair. But now, like, you know, they're all old. And like the band disbanded years and years ago, and the guy that's the point of view character is now living, like he's married, settled down, and he has like a daughter who I think she's a preteen or something. She's a very bright child, and he kind of doesn't want to, like, you know, go on any more adventures, just because like he just wants to like live a nice quiet life with his wife and with his daughter. But at the beginning of the story, his like the former band leader, Gabe, comes back and shows up at his doorstep and asks for help to go retrieve his grown daughter, who left to fight with her own mercenary band. And she went, I think, far west to this like one big city that was being held under siege by like this, I guess, they're not really a demon army, I think, but they're like an army of, I guess, dark forces. And like everyone thinks like everyone who has been held siege there is probably dead or going to die, but he still has hope that he can save her, but he will need the help of the rest of the band. So he convinces the protagonist and everybody else to go ahead and join him. And it's just, if you think about it, it's a very dark book. Like some of the topics that are covered, like they talk about like drug addiction, and just like it's really sad if you think about it, because usually when you read a fantasy novel, it kind of ends with like the heroes, like these bright, accomplished, good-looking young men hooking up with the women or men or whatever that they meet along the way, and they go off and presumably have children and live happily ever after. But here, this is like, and 20-something years later, that was not the case. So you get to kind of see them like where they're at now, and like many of them, like their relationships have fallen apart, or they're just stuck in like really unhappy marriages. And you get to, like, especially with the romances, you recognize like common fantasy tropes, but they've like all gone wrong or been turned on their heads, which is very fun to read. Like you usually don't see something like that. Plus the commentary, the main character, when you first meet him, like at least I thought that he was super serious. I was like, he's gonna be one of those like grim, dark character types where he's like super serious and like he's like very masculine and all that. But the thing is, I think he just has that appearance. Like his inner narration, his thoughts are super funny to read, and I was laughing out loud reading this book. And that's another reason I want to save it, just because I think I've mentioned before, like I love funny books. Like I'm always looking for like fantasy novels and sci-fi novels that are funny, and it's just really hard to find a quality one, because most of them are just, especially nowadays, like these past few years, everything's been so gritty. Like even middle grade and YA novels are gritty. Like I can't really, like I do enjoy reading like the more grim fantasy novels, but I also want to just laugh sometimes. And this book, it's not like there are no like moving or, like I said, dark or even tragic moments. Like there are, but it's way balanced out and like made up for by all the funny bits. So that is the book that I think like it skyrocketed to my top, like the top of my top 10 list probably. So I am looking forward. Actually, no, not really. I don't want it to end, like I said. So, like, I kind of want, like, I'm looking forward to knowing how it ends, but I also am not. So, like, we'll see how long it takes me to actually, like, suck it up and just, like, let go of these characters and finish this book. God, it's so hard to get molasses out of a cup, especially since, I don't know if you can see, but this cup has, like, these, like, platforms almost. It's supposed to, like, mark off, like, for example, like, this is a 1 cup measure, but it's supposed to mark off, like, okay, if you want to measure half a cup, the half cup mark is right there. Like, there's a line, but it's not just like a flat line. It's actually like sticking out so you can, like, there's no way you can miss it. They don't want you to miss it. Okay, so I've microwaved the butter and the molasses, and I am basically just trying to mix them together right now. She said to do it on high for 1 minute in the microwave. I don't know about everybody else. Every time I microwave butter and I just do it like 1 minute in one go, the whole thing just explodes on me. My microwave is just dripping with melted butter, and it's a pain to clean. So I just did it in like 30-second intervals. But while I am mixing this, ooh, I guess the oven is preheated, and of course I am not ready. Like, what a surprise. So anyways, like, while I'm trying to get these lumps to melt into the rest of the molasses, the next question is The Ghost of Darkness, Yet to Come, a book coming out next year that you're most excited about. So the book that I am most excited about is the 3rd book of the Cratchit Files, which I've mentioned before. That is, it starts with the Rook, and then the 2nd book is Stiletto, and then the 3rd book is, I think it's called Take Flight. The last time I saw the cover, which was like last month, it still had no illustration. It was just like a placeholder rectangle. So I don't know if they're gonna like change the title or anything by the time it comes out, but I'm waiting for a while for this. This is by Daniel O'Malley, and I think, and I mentioned in a previous video, this is another one of my favorite books. It's about this supernatural organization. Like, they do like Homeland Security in England, so they're like MI5, but, or like whatever one of the M's corresponds to it, but the supernatural version of it. So they all have like superpowers, and they're trying to, but they're also bureaucrats. So like the officials, like the main character is one of like the top admins in this like organization, and they all have titles that correspond to like pieces on a chessboard. So like she's the rook, and then like there's the person who is the rook on the opposite side of her, like her counterpart, and they work together on a lot of things. And there's like another and there's like, you know, the king and queen, just like very recognizable pieces if you've ever played chess. But it's just another book that is very dark and funny in that like kind of witty and grim British way. Even though the author, like I said, is Australian, and he himself worked for the Department of Transportation in Australia, so very familiar with red tape and like having to deal with the public when they're pissed off because like they're not being given information, and trying not to incite panic after an attack by like a rival supernatural organization or like supernatural terrorists or whatever. The 2nd book was from a different character's perspective for most of it. She's another agent within this organization, like not a higher up this time, but you know, the main character Miffini still appears in it, and I think she is the point of view character like later on in the book. I don't know how the 3rd one is going to go, but like I said, 1 was awesome, 2 was a lot of fun as well, and I am so looking forward to this 3rd book. I don't know how he's going to wrap this up, if he plans to wrap it up. I think he is. I think it's just a trilogy, but I'm so excited to see where it goes. Okay, so I am currently measuring out 2 2/3 cups of flour. All of my 1 cup measures are currently being used for other things, so I only have this 2/3 cup measure. So, you know, it can measure the 2/3 that I need, but then I'm going to have to be very careful when I measure out the remaining 2 cups. So that's 2/3. That's another 2/3. another 2/3. And it should be one more 2/3. I really hope I did that right. If not, then fuck. We'll just have to deal with it. But yeah, the next prompt says, Bah Humbug, a book that everyone else loves that you just can't stand. This is really hard because I don't really know if I, like, usually I know what I don't like, so if I don't, if I'm reading something, I can get like a little ways in and already know that I don't like it, so I can't really think of anything that I like suffered through. Oh wait, I got it. So I really dislike Wuthering Heights. I'm sorry to everybody that enjoys it so much, but I remember like I had to read it for school multiple times. I think like once in high school, once again in college, and I just really do not like that book. Like I mean, there are worse books for sure, but I can't stand Kathy. I hate Heathcliff. Heathcliff annoys me so much. I know that the point of it is like their relationship. Like it's not exactly supposed to be healthy, right? Like they're the products of the society they came from, the household they were raised in, and everything. But I don't know, like something just really like I don't like stories where like they're practically raised as adoptive siblings if you think about it, because Heathcliff was taken in as like a ward for Kathy's dad, and then like they grow up and they decide like they are in love with each other, like they're soulmates, whatever, and then Heathcliff launches that massive revenge scheme that I just to this day don't understand. And yeah, I don't like it. I'm not gonna bother like explaining exactly like how the plot plays out or anything like that. Is because most of you have read it already, and I think many of you love it. Like yeah, in fact, like my friends, like family members, like everyone I've talked to that's read the book is like, oh yeah, like I love Wuthering Heights. I mean, there's a select crowd that just doesn't like classic novels, that doesn't like Wuthering Heights, but other than that, like I can't think of anybody else I've met that does not like this book. So the next prompt is Bob Cratchit, an old dependable that you have always recommended. You know, this is hard. I have so many, and it really depends on who I'm talking to. Like, I'm not going to recommend, like, you know, especially as somebody who used to work in a public library, I am not going to recommend a book to you if I know you don't like a specific genre. So this answer, I will say, truly depends. But the first thing that came to mind is The Iron Trial, and it's the first of a series whose name I just cannot remember, The Magisterium, there we go. So that's a middle grade or children's series. It's shelved in the children's section of the library, but it comes to mind mostly because like of how many times when I was working at the public library that I was at the children's information desk and parents and kids would all come up to me and say, I liked Harry Potter a lot. Do you have a recommendation for me? And I had read that series, like, I think, like, right when I first started that job, like, when I, like, first started grad school, actually, and I enjoyed it a lot. I'm still not done with it because, like, I got to, I think, about the third or fourth book, and something happened that devastated me, and I could not continue, like, just emotionally. I was like, I've been bruised. Over dramatics aside, I have to like recover from it a little bit, so I haven't gone back to it yet, but it's about this trio of kids, and the main character is disabled. He walks with a limp, and it's from something like that happened when he was very young, but if I recall correctly, I don't think he knows that. Like, he thinks he was born with it, but yeah, like, he kind of like is like, he has this like dark and sarcastic sense of humor, like, because he doesn't have any friends. Like, his father is super paranoid, and he doesn't really know why, but you learn why as the story goes on. At the very beginning, he goes to like these trials for kids who are trying to get into this like school of magic, and I don't think it's quite like Harry Potter in that it's like completely hidden, like, because these students are invited to trials, and I can't remember, I think after they fail the trial their memories get wiped. Like, there has to be some way to preserve the magical community, right? I'm not, like I said, it's been a while since I've read the first book, so I don't remember like the details of it, like how it works, but so he goes to like this school, and unlike Hogwarts, it's a bit more rustic. Like, it's in like some kind of like like intricate cave system versus like Hogwarts, which is like this Scottish boarding school in a castle. He gets to know the kids there, and he like learns about like all these deep dark secrets about magic and like their history of like the history of like the magical community, and like what happened to his mother and why, like I said, his father is so paranoid. And it's just like a series that I really believe that children who like Harry Potter would enjoy. Like it has like that, the friendship, the like the, even the three, like the main characters, it's a trio. And I don't know, like it's by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black, and I don't know if they were inspired by Harry Potter or not. Like I'm assuming like they had to have been familiar with it at least, considering their ages. But yeah, it's just it's a very good series. So that's what I always like tell the kids to read, and I think like I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to an adult audience either if I felt like they would like reading that type of book. Holy crap, it got really hot because I took forever, and the oven is warming up my house. Before it was 69 degrees, and now it's like 71, so I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit. But so the next prompt is Tiny Tim, an underhyped book that you think deserves more love. So I actually am going to cheat with this prompt and recommend. So I've only watched the anime because the book doesn't have a translation, but it was originally from a Japanese novel, and that is Run with the Wind by Miura Shion, and it's about this college track team. And yes, it's a sports fiction story, which is, like I said, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. But I think it came out last year, and either last year or like the end of 2018, and then it continued on until last year. It's about this struggling college kid, Kakeru, and he used to be like an elite runner back in high school, but something happened that made him quit the sport, and he hasn't returned to it. But he tries to steal food from a convenience store. He doesn't like rob them like at gunpoint or anything, but he just like sneaks off with it. And like he's running off, and this other kid or other boy, I mean I'm old now, so everyone in college is a little boy to me, but this other college kid notices that this thief running off is very fast. So he chases after him in his bike and asks him if he runs, and then he tricks him to come live in this dorm, like this building that he set up. Like I think he has an arrangement with the landlord or something, so like he gets all these boys to move in. I think there's like 13 of them total by the time Kakeru joins, and his name is Haiji, and I think he's a senior in college. And he basically gets them to agree to like sign a lease and live in this building by saying that he will cook meals for them. Like he's a very good cook, and he cooks like daily homemade meals, and they get to pay very, very cheap rent to live in these rooms. So I don't know, it seems like a good deal, but there has to be a catch to it, right? And it turns out there is, because he's trying to put together a track team, like to run in the annual marathon. I suddenly forgot its name. I will put it on the screen later, like when I'm editing this. But there's this marathon apparently in Japan that happens every New Year's, and like they compete in teams, and like the top teams from the top universities get seeded automatically, so they get a spot for the next year. But if not, you have to like compete for the remaining spots, and then like if you qualify, you have to compete with the other people who qualified before you can even like win anything. But none of the boys in this building, aside from Haiji and Kakeru, and there's another boy, I forgot his name, but like he has like some experience running for his high school team. Actually, I think there are a few of them, so it's like him, and there are several people that have some experience running, but they're not like great at it or anything. And like either that or like they haven't run since like they were in high school, they quit for some reason or other. But he's somehow, I can't remember how, managed, like he singled these people out and he's gathered them together, and he essentially tricks them into agreeing to run for this track team that he's starting up, because you need a minimum of 13 or however many guys are in this building in order to qualify as a team. So all of them have to qualify in order for the whole team to be able to even hope to get a spot in this this marathon. And I am not into running, or I wasn't. I guess I've lived a pretty active life as a young person, but I've never really enjoyed it. It was kind of okay, well, it's one of these things I have to do. And running was the one thing that I absolutely detested. I will do everything but run. I just hate running. And running was just I saw it as just a necessary evil. Okay, we are conditioning, we're training, so running just kind of comes with it. But do I like doing it? No. I'd rather do anything else. But yeah, or except maybe I'm trying to think. I have pretty weak knees. I hate doing burpees as well. But running is just so awful to me. And they always have to get up so early to do it. But anyways, he gets this team of essentially complete newbies to agree to at least try training with him. And I'm not really spoiling much here because it's a sports fiction novel. There's no way it doesn't go in this direction. But they eventually learn to love running. They get up every day and they suffer, and first there's a lot of grumbling. I myself would have complained bitch nonstop about it, and I would have tried to quit, which some of them did. But this is kind of the first sports story that I've encountered where you don't get a team that's made up of people who are good. Usually they're either good or they don't have any experience, but they have a lot of innate talent. This is not the case here. These people are like me. They have no experience running. They have no interest in running. They don't have a flair for it. Some of them are downright unathletic. They're just so unfit. And but watching this, and it's not just me. One of my best friends is watching this back home, and we were kind of texting about it, and he said it made him want to get up and run. But he had recently gotten into running as exercise, so he was oh, it makes me really want to get up and run. And for me, I'm I wanted to get up and run, but that has never happened. Usually, I've read. I read What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami, and it made me go, oh, he makes running sound pretty cool. I kind of get why runners run, but does it make me want to run? No. But this anime, when I was watching it, I was just I kind of want to give running a shot. While I was watching, I could not bring myself to do it, but as of the start of quarantine, I've started to run, and I really have to credit this anime. I know I finished watching it last year, but I think part of the reason that I even thought I could run, because before I always went, okay, when running is a sport for people who there's a certain type of person who runs. They're willing to get up early and make sacrifices, and I'm not that type of person. But no, you can really squeeze in running anywhere. I ran today between one interview and the next because I only had 45 minutes, and I was I'm just going to do a shorter run and then come back and take a quick shower, because I knew the way the schedule was going with how packed it was and what I wanted to do, what I was going to eat and drink. I'm not going to come back and exercise most likely. So I went, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get it over with. Before, I never would have thought that was possible because I running, I always went, okay, you have to get up super early and run 5 miles or whatever, but it's not like that at all. And I really hope they translate this novel one day so that I can read it in English, or I can finally learn Japanese and read it in Japanese. That's probably better, but who knows how long it's going to take me with my inability to learn languages. I pulled out the allspice, and it turns out this recipe doesn't need allspice, and now I'm why did I buy allspice? What did I need allspice for? I think I might have wanted to try another recipe, and I changed my mind about it because this allspice is unopened, and I bought it pretty recently, so who knows? I'll figure it out eventually, probably. Oh crap. Just spilled everything everywhere. I'm just going to estimate. This looks like it's about a teaspoon. Anyways, The next prompt is, today, why it's Christmas Day. What's a book that always gets you in the mood for Christmas apart from A Christmas Carol? This is not a Christmas book, but it gets me in the mood for Christmas, and that book is The Lord of the Rings. And why is this? It's because I talked to several people about this. Like, I just associate Lord of the Rings with winter break, because as a child I read The Lord of the Rings over winter break, because that's like the main stretch of time where I could just like sit around and read and not really be interrupted by school or by parents or whatever. So yeah, like I used to reread Lord of the Rings every winter break, and I also watched the extended edition DVDs once they came out on DVD with my sister. Like, we used to just do it randomly over winter break, but now that we're older, we have to actually schedule in time. So like when I fly home for Christmas, like we actually put it on our calendars, like this day we're marathoning Lord of the Rings. And my mom always like gets on our case about it. Like, she'll be like, you've been sitting for way too long, you must get up and move around. But on Lord of the Rings Day, she always leaves us alone because she just knows. She's like, oh God, these kids are just going to watch that movie again. Yeah, like I really adore Lord of the Rings, like the books and the movies. And, well, it's a book singular, but yeah, like it like I said, it really gets me in the mood for Christmas because I now like associate it with the holidays. Like, I just go, okay, well, it's the holidays, it's time for Lord of the Rings, or it's Lord of the Rings, like, is it Christmas yet? Can I sit around and read it? I don't think I have to tell you what Lord of the Rings is about, right? It's about, a fellowship made up of, like, hobbits, very unassuming heroes, hobbits, and, like, humans, elves, actually no, one elf, one dwarf, singular. But yeah, like, they go on this, like, massive quest to destroy this ring in order to save the world from, the dark forces of Mordor. But yeah, it's a very hopeful story to read, especially in dark times. And I think this year I'm going to definitely do a reread. Like, as I get older, I reread it less and less just because of, like, time constraints, because, like, when I go home for the holidays now, I just don't have time to sit there and read as much as I used to. So I'm rereading every other year now, but it's about time. Like, it's been 2 years, so it's time for me to do my reread. And the last question or prompt is, the Muppet Christmas Carol, your favorite film adaptation of a book. Technically, Lord of the Rings would have fit this prompt rather well, but my favorite sci-fi movie is Blade Runner, the 80s version, not the new one. I like the new one a lot, but like the 80s version is my favorite. And I actually like it way better than the book. Like, I read the book when I was in college, and I think I just expected way too much out of it, because I was like, I grew up watching this movie, so maybe part of it is just bias, because I'm like, it's nostalgic, who knows, but I loved the movie, and when I read the book, it's not like it was a bad book. It was pretty good. It's just, it kind of wasn't what I expected. Like, they made a lot of changes, and the characters are just not as likable, and that kind of disappointed me. I went, that's not what I expected, and I just wasn't having it. So, so yeah, like, I prefer the movie adaptation to the book, honestly. But I think it's also the way Philip K. Dick writes books. Like, I think he was high throughout, like, most of the 60s, or whenever it was that he wrote most of his books, but, like, he was very paranoid, probably because of all the LSD, but yeah, he was always paranoid, and it really comes across in his books. Like, if you've read Scanner Darkly, which I think is actually, it's either a novella or a short story, I can't remember, but like, I've only read 3. So I've read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, I've read Ubik, and I've read Scanner Darkly, and I haven't read the other ones that, like, Minority Report and some of the other big movies are based off of, but Oh, if you're wondering what this is, it's sour cream that I left out. So it's room temperature. And again, this weird problem comes up with the little platform sticking out right there. But like I have the option of using either plain yogurt, which I actually have, and or sour cream. But the thing is, like, I bought this big thing of sour cream so I can make California burritos over Thanksgiving, and I am stuck with it. I don't even like sour cream. I only like it in California burritos. But I accidentally bought the big like container, so now I have to find like ways to use it up. So I made cheesecake last week, and now I'm making this. So I'm supposed to, just put it into the molasses. Yeah, for anyone who's not familiar, like Blade Runner is about this futuristic, like Los Angeles. It's set in a futuristic Los Angeles. It's supposed to be, I think, the year 2020, but of course they have like flying cars and everything, and we don't have anything like that right now. But the main character, Rick, he works as a Blade Runner, so he basically is supposed to retire androids that have become troublemakers. Like they've gone wrong, like they've like escaped from the colonies where they were working, like they've killed somebody, something like that. He's supposed to put them down, and like the thing is, like many of these androids can blend in pretty well with society, like with humans, so they have to like administer these like very complex tests to see like if they like can answer or respond the way you would expect a human to. And yeah, just ask all these questions about like what does it mean to really be human, and like the difference between a human and an android that is human-esque. Like if you think about it, like these androids, especially the ones that you meet throughout like the movie or the book, like they are exactly like humans, and even like in the ways that they differ, like are those differences really enough to just like treat these androids like they are robots versus just a new species, like granted one that we created ourselves, but yeah, like I love the movie adaptation, and I do recommend reading the book if you have not, just because like there are some interesting ideas in there that I can see being incorporated into other like more modern sci-fi, and I want to see a movie adaptation of Ubik actually, because Ubik was so strange, but I think like especially in 2020 with like the way capitalism works and everything, I think Ubik would be a fun one to adapt. I think they've only made one adaptation, and that was like way back in the day, so I don't know why they've never like tried to do like a reboot or something. I mean, they're rebooting everything nowadays, aren't they? Anyways, that's it for the questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop the video here and finish up this mixing, because it's taking me a very long time, like I said. And yeah, like, oh shoot, this is a terrible angle. Just anyways, yeah, like I am just gonna go ahead and stop right here, and I will come back later. All right, I want to show you what it looks like now that it's out of the oven. This lighting makes it look a bit more like bright than it's supposed to be. They're actually a much darker brown in real life, but I'm supposed to have these cracked tops, and I sprinkled that coarse sparkly sugar on top like I was instructed to, because that's supposed to make it extra crunchy. And I don't know, I think I got too excited, my hand like shook, and a lot of sugar went onto each muffin. But I think overall, like, I don't know how they're gonna taste, but they look like they're supposed to look. So the next thing I have to do is just make the lemon glaze and then pour it over the muffins. So I'll be back. So I may have fucked up. I made the lemon glaze as instructed with a tablespoon of milk, a cup of confectioner sugar, and the 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I poured it on, and I know in her original recipe, the icing looks all thick and white, and it's opaque. And mine is just, as you can see, it's just all shiny. She said it's supposed to set as it cools down, and it's still very warm because it's like barely out of the oven. But you know, like
It kind of cooled a little bit while I was mixing this glaze because I could lift it out of the muffin tin easily. But I may have just, I thought about like just grabbing a spoon and like drizzling it properly. But of course, I just decided to hold the bowl over the tin and freehand it. So I just poured the entire bowl over the tin, and now it's just it's kind of a mess. So the moral of the story is do not freehand it if you can. Like wait a little bit, and like maybe take it out and then drizzle it on once it's outside of the tin already. Yeah, it's gonna be a sticky mess to eat, but I kind of want to see what it tastes like. Okay, I have just eaten the first muffin, and I've decided I don't care that it looks that way. It tastes amazing. Like usually with Sally's recipes, she can tend to put too much sugar, so I was worried that with the molasses and the brown sugar and the glaze it was going to get way too sweet, but no, that did not happen. It was so good, and I am noticing that as it cools it is getting a bit more opaque, so maybe they'll look better tomorrow. But I am so excited by how this turned out, and I'm gonna go end this now and clean up and I guess make dinner because I have to eat dinner. I can't just eat muffins. But yeah, have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.